Hey everybody, it's James here from the Sawyer Family Reviews channel, bringing you another monstrous review. Today we're taking a look at an older Sideshow Collectibles 12-inch figure, the Vampyre, Count Orlok from Nosferatu. Let's check him out. We'll start off with a look at the Vampyre's box. So first off, this has been opened, just to preface that. I have torn open this box before, so it's got this split up here. These weren't super collector friendly at this point. Sideshow Collectibles had started off with these flapped boxes, but they still had all the accessories kind of stuck, kind of vacuum formed to the card back. So they weren't able to go in and out of the box as they would later on where they had the tray. You actually had to tear this bubble off to get all this stuff out. So this one's been open before, so just telling you, if you notice that it's like falling off the card back there, that's why. The other thing about this style of packaging is they started off with these flapped boxes where it had like a movie poster on the front. And then for a couple of releases, they did this window box. And I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe it was cost cutting. I have no idea. So maybe they'd see the figure sitting on a shelf, because these would have been sold at places like Media Play and Suncoast during the time. So I guess maybe it let you know that it was a figure more easily. I don't know. Either way, though, I don't really like this style of box compared to the flap style boxes with the movie poster fronts. I think those are much nicer. This is a cool box overall, though. It's got some neat designs to it. You've got a little shot of Count Orlok there, and his eyes down here, and a Vampyre logo. You've got collectible 12-inch figure there, the Vampyre. So at no point, though, is this labeled as Nosferatu, which is interesting to me. It just says the Vampyre all over the place. I'm curious why that is, why it's not labeled as Nosferatu. And if you know why, leave a comment down below. Maybe they didn't have the rights to actually use the name Nosferatu from the film, or maybe they thought that the Vampyre was better. I have no idea. But this is Count Orlok from that film. There's a write-up on the back, and I'm going to kind of hold it up close. And if you really want to read it, you can just pause it, because it is quite long. So I'm not going to read all that. But it does say down below that the portrait is sculpted by Philip Ramirez. Figures and accessories designed by the Sideshow toy figure team. Now that's interesting, because Phil Ramirez didn't do a whole lot of these. It was mostly Matt Falls and Olaf Hartvigsen, I think is how you say his name. So Phil Ramirez did a lot of work for Marvel Legends, you know, Toy Biz, Sculpted, and that kind of stuff. But I don't know how much he did for Sideshow. But it's, you know, as we'll see when we get him out, it's a really good sculpt. But there's the packaging. Let's check him out. Okay, we've got the Vampyre out of the box. I don't know if I'm going to keep calling him the Vampyre. I'm just going to call him Count Orlok, because that's really what he's called in the movie. So in case you don't know about Nosferatu, it's a 1922 silent film. It's basically Dracula, but they didn't have the rights to do Dracula, so they changed the names. It's really creepy, even by today's standards, and the makeup job they did on Max Schreck as Count Orlok is still super, super scary. Even today, like looking back at it, I don't know how they made him look so intimidating and so scary back then. Just, it's really, really cool. You should watch it. I'm sure it's in the public domain probably, or streaming for free. I think it's streaming on Tubi, and maybe at the point of this video. You should definitely check it out if you've never watched it before. It's creepy. It is a silent film though, so you have to be used to silent films. Height on him, he stands right at about, the top of his head is right almost exactly at the 12¼ mark. He does have a hat, which we'll look at in a second here, so his height does bump up a bit from there, but that is his height. As far as things that he comes with, Sideshow at this point was not including doll stands like the one I've got him on. They were including like little clip stands or stuff that was formed to the feet. In the case of Orlok here, he has a stand with a peg. So it's like a rocky base with a little peg, and his feet do have pegs in them, so he just pegs right on there. I put all my stuff on doll stands, but thankfully I can still put him on this peg stand and have him on the doll stand as well, so that'll look okay. Then he comes with 3 rats. They're all different sculpts. We've got this guy here that's kind of moving his hand up, his little paw up. We've got one here that's holding his little front paws. We've got one that's turned to the side. They all have paint apps where their little feet are painted and their tails are painted, and there's a nice wash, and their teeth are white. So they're interesting little rats. And in the film, rats do play into Count Orlok. They're in his like coffin thing inside the ship. and they think the rats bring the bubonic plague when he arrives. So they do kind of play into the story. Then we've got a set of keys. These are all plastic, and they're on a little chain. He is holding these when Hutter first shows up at his castle or mansion, whatever you want to call it. His estate? I don't know what you want to call it. He's holding those. And it's kind of a go-to thing to put these with him, I think, because both this version and the Mezco Silent Screamers version, I think, both come with a set of keys. It's one of the few actual objects he interacts with in the film, so it makes sense for it to be included. Something that this comes with that I don't think it does, at least. I could be wrong. The Mezco version, I don't know if it includes one of these hats. So when he first is on screen, he's wearing this hat on his head. This, like, I don't know, turban, maybe? I guess you could call it a turban. Let's bring it in close here. I got to pull this light back some so you get a better look at his face. So there it is. And it kind of sits nicely. It has little sculpted recesses for his ears and just kind of sits right on there. While we're there, let's take a look at that face. Look at that. That is a creepy face, man. Phil Ramirez did a really good job on this sculpt. It's very, very creepy. It catches light really well, and the paint apps on it are really nice too. This is just overall a very creepy looking figure. He has really nicely sculpted fingers too. Like he's got the long nails. Now in the movie, his nails seem to change length. They get real long and curled, almost like a bat's sort of long fingers that stretch into its wings. They get really long and gnarled. So I wish that it would have come with interchangeable hands like that. And that's one of the things that the Mezco version does, is that it does those long fingers, those long curled fingers. Now theirs is more of their own interpretation of what Nosferatu looked like in the film, or Count Orlok, whatever you want to call him. And the Sideshow version really is trying to stay true to what he looked like in the movie, as opposed to their own take on it. So he's got this nice burgundy coat. It's a black and white film, so I guess it's their own interpretation as to what color it is. But it is this kind of coat in the film where it's got these barbell buttons going all the way down. Those are not actual buttons on the coat, though. It's just 3 snaps that go in there. He's got a black undershirt there and the black set of slacks that then have these elastic pieces that go around the plastic boots. And then the black cuffs at the end. And a little collar that you could kind of bring him up on. He's got in the movie, he's got sort of a V shape to his body. Like he's kind of wide here and he slims down. And this figure is sort of capturing it. I mean, it does have a buck body underneath. I think they called this the Prometheus body. I can't remember for sure. It's not the most articulated thing in the world. It is a little on the thin side, which works for him. But it still doesn't quite capture that skinniness that he had, like the broad into the skinny. But overall, though, I think as far as movie interpretation goes, this is closer than the Mezco and the, I guess it was called Aztec Toys originally, then became Mezco, the old Silent Screamers line. This is the most accurate one of those mass market figures. I guess they're mass market, not really, but not being a statue, actual figures. This looks the closest to the movie. As far as articulation goes, I can't go crazy on him because the outfit is sort of restricted, so I'm not going to know exactly where every joint is, but I'm going to do my best here. He does have ankle articulation that hinges up and down. It swivels back and forth. It feels like a double-jointed knee. Yeah, they can go to there. Rotation at the top of the waist. Or, I'm sorry, at the top of the hip. The legs can kick up to there. Out. And then he feels like he's got rotation at the waist. Does he have a mid-torso joint? It feels like there's one there, but I'm not feeling any movement. It does feel like one is sculpted in there. But yeah, it's not moving anywhere. It just feels really solid. Then he's got rotation at the shoulder. They hinge out. Rotation at the bicep. A double-jointed elbow. Yeah, double-jointed elbow. Rotation at the wrist and up and down at the wrist. And then he's got a ball-jointed neck. Looks like it's maybe double-jointed at the neck. Yeah, maybe a joint where the head meets the neck. No, that doesn't feel like that moves. So just a ball-jointed neck. So he is pretty articulated. Nosferatu, Count Orlok, whatever you want to call him, wasn't really doing giant poses in the movie, though, so it's not like you need all that articulation. This one feels a little stuck. There it goes. You can get him in sort of the pose where he's got this going on. Ooh, that's good. That's a good creepy pose. Put that on him. Yeah, that's cool. With the way that the light can catch his eyes. And you maybe put the keys in his hand here. And then have his little rat buddies all around his feet. Yeah, he's cool. This is a cool one. So originally this guy retailed at like 20 or 30 bucks. And that's mind-boggling now. This is 2001 that this guy got released. It's mind-boggling to think that 1/6 scale figures were only 20 or 30 bucks back then. And yeah, you could judge it by today's standards and go, oh, the cloth isn't as nice as a Hot Toy, or the paintwork's not as nice as a Hot Toy. But Hot Toys are like 300 bucks. They're like 200, 300 bucks minimum. So when you're getting this guy for 20 or 30 bucks, which is what most mass market 6-inch figures cost nowadays, that was crazy back then. The fact that they were putting these figures out for that cheap was insane. I think even by today's standards, he's a really solid 1/6 scale figure. He's got a nice paintwork. He's got a cool outfit. He's got nice shelf presence. He's got, ooh, really creepy look on his face. Nowadays, he goes for, I think, I looked him up before I started the review, and it looks like he's going for in package around $125. And that's not a bad price when you consider what 1/6 scale figures are going for nowadays, and that we probably aren't going to get a Count Orlok in 1/6 scale anytime soon from any other company. Sideshow really went deep with their monster line. It was mostly Universal monsters, but he's not a Universal monster. But the fact that they made him, they knew his importance to horror movies and the horror movie legacy. The fact that they went back and made a Count Orlok when it was mostly Universal stuff they were doing was really cool. They did him. They did London After Midnight. They did the White Zombie, the Bela Lugosi character from White Zombie, which is Murder Legendary, I think. So they did a few that weren't Universal Studios ones that you could plug in with your Universal monsters to make it look like a complete classic legacy monster display. This guy's super cool. If you're into the movie, if you've ever seen the movie and you're wanting a nice one to have on your shelf, this one does fit the bill. The cheapest version you could get is probably the Aztec Toys Silent Screamers Nosferatu. The Mezco version's like 250 bucks. So if you just want a nice one to have on your shelf, this would make a good version that you can probably get it for around 100 bucks if you're careful. That about wraps it up on this one. We're going to keep up with these monstrous reviews. So keep an eye out for more at the channel. If you enjoy the videos, like, subscribe, notify. Please leave a comment down below, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.